My brother was an imperial physician. Yet he fell in love with a concubine in the palace. The concubine was barren, so he deceived me into entering the palace to share his bed. After I bore him a prince, he sent me to the afterlife with a cup of poisoned wine. Later, the concubine gained status through her son and became empress. When I opened my eyes again, I had been reborn in the emperor's bedchamber. Main text: in the vast, lofty palace halls, candles flickered with a faint glow. I stared blankly at the golden dragon embroidered on the canopy above the bed. This was the emperor's bedchamber. And I lay there, completely naked, with only a corner of the quilt draped diagonally across my lower abdomen. Beside me, the emperor snored softly, sleeping soundly. I sat up, touching my cold arm. The palace guarding sand had faded. My body was covered in suggestive red marks, every movement brought a dull ache. I pulled the quilt over myself. My thoughts gradually cleared. I had been reborn, back to the day I mistakenly entered the emperor's chambers and had my purity taken. In my previous life, Consort Lee had fallen ill, and my brother asked me to enter the palace to keep her company. The consort and my brother had been childhood sweethearts. She treated me like a younger sister. Later, she entered the palace to become the emperor's consort for her future prospects, and my brother also left our family clinic to become a court physician. Hearing she was ill, I was deeply concerned. Being able to enter the palace to visit and care for her was naturally a good thing. After staying in the palace for several days, my brother asked me to accompany him to the Imperial Medical Institute to fetch some medicine. I carried the medicine, following closely behind him. After rounding a corner, he vanished from sight. In the unfamiliar, strictly regulated palace, I dared not move. I could only stand still, waiting for him to return and find me. Hearing footsteps behind me, I thought it was my brother. Turning with joy, I saw only an unfamiliar face. His cheeks flushed unnaturally, his eyes gleaming with animalistic desire. The herbs in my hands spilled to the ground. He grabbed me, hoisted me up, and carried me into the sleeping chamber. I couldn't break free, my limbs felt too weak to lift. When I came to, I was in this very state. I took my own pulse. It was confirmed. My dear brother had indeed laced the tea he handed me in the Imperial Medical Bureau. And the emperor beside me, I fear his food and drink were also tampered with. In my previous life, upon waking, I had no time to think. I screamed at the audacious villain, clawing at the man beside me until his face was torn. Only then did I learn that the one who had taken my purity was the emperor. Furious, he bellowed for guards to punish me. But it was the empress and my brother who entered. I was taken back to the empress's palace. She pleaded for mercy on my behalf before the emperor. She declared that since he had taken me, he must grant me a proper status. I wanted no status, only to leave the palace. But my brother insisted I stay, fearing I might do something reckless outside and worrying no one would care for me. A month later, I was diagnosed with pregnancy. Upon learning this, the emperor sent gifts and instructed the Empress Dowager to look after me. He made no mention of the other matter. The Empress Dowager explained that because I had scratched his face, he harbored deep resentment toward me. Once I gave birth to the child, I would naturally receive a title, perhaps even be directly elevated to noble consort. But I didn't want any noble consort title. I didn't want this child either. Day after day, the Empress Dowager held my hand and pleaded with me earnestly. The emperor had few children. Now 24 years old, he had only one young princess. If I bear him a prince, I would become the foremost benefactor of the imperial house. Even if the emperor dislikes me, the Empress Dowager would advocate for me. Moreover, I have my brother and her majesty. No matter what, I would have a place within the harem. Yet I still refuse. Later, my brother told me that harming the imperial heir is a grave crime. If I deliberately abort the child, not only would I lose my life, but my entire family would be implicated and executed. The empress promised me that if I bore the child, she would raise it well for me. She and my brother swore they would send me away from the palace afterward. How laughable that I ever trusted them. I was confined to a side chamber in Lady Lee's Orchid Fragrance Hall, forbidden to leave even half a step. To ensure a safe pregnancy, my brother checked my pulse daily, and the empress ordered nourishing tonics every day. The days stretched long and tedious, leaving me only books for company. On the day of delivery, my brother waited outside the door. After a day and night of labor, I finally heard the baby's cry. Exhausted, I lay on the bed as the midwife carried the child out. Lady Lee had already rushed over upon hearing the sound. All our efforts were not in vain, it truly is a prince. Plump and fair, clearly a delightful child. I listened to Her Majesty's joyful voice. I thought she would treat this child well. And I could leave the palace with peace of mind. Just as I closed my eyes to rest, I heard my brother's voice, cold as ice. My Dong has passed away during childbirth, but she did her utmost to preserve the imperial heir. Please compose yourself, Your Majesty. My heart plummeted into an icy abyss. I struggled to rise but was pinned down. Before I could question my brother or the Empress, the midwife forced poison down my throat. The agonizing cramps in my womb and lower body sent waves of chill through me. I had trusted the Empress wrongly. She raised my child, ascended step by step, and became Empress. I trusted my brother wrongly. His heart belonged only to his childhood sweetheart, the Empress. For her sake, he schemed to frame his own sister. Recalling all that happened in my past life, my heart ached in waves. At this very moment, Consort Lee and my dear brother must already be waiting outside the palace hall. Glancing sideways at the emperor sleeping soundly beside me, I lay back, rolled over, and burrowed into his embrace. If you're so easily manipulated, then let me play my own little game. My icy body pressed against him. He shuddered at the chill, his eyes still closed as he clamped his hand around my throat. Who are you? Tears welled in my eyes. My hands weakly grasped his arm as I whimpered softly, it hurts. He released his grip, his gaze following the slipping blanket. One glance was enough for him to understand. Who are you? How did you get here? My eyes remained brimming with tears. I'm the younger sister of Imperial Physician He. I came to the palace to tend to Consort Lee's illness. My brother asked me to fetch some medicinal herbs back to the palace. I got lost on the way here, encountered you, and then you. You. My face flushed as I lowered my head, grabbing the quilt to cover my chest. He understood the rest without me saying it. Doubt still lingered in his eyes. At today's palace banquet, he had indeed overindulged in wine. The tonic he'd taken, when mixed with alcohol, stirred his desires. My dear brother had deliberately given me tea laced with that potion. Then he made me wait outside the emperor's bedchamber. Meeting him was like a lamb walking into the tiger's den. I was destined to be devoured. Yet to him, it all seemed like I was deliberately seducing him. I lifted my head, eyes reddened, and demanded, "Who are you? Why are you tormenting me like this? When I tell my brother, he'll have you killed." A flicker of amusement danced in his eyes as he scoffed. Your brother? That timid court physician, he doesn't have the guts. He lifted my chin, fixing his gaze on mine. Besides, what we share is called imperial favor, not bullying. I feigned shock, my mouth agape in speechlessness. Then I burrowed deep beneath the covers. I've never seen you before. Have someone bring me clothes. I'll leave once I'm dressed. But he pulled back the covers and drew me into his embrace. You think you can sleep with me and then leave? You have some nerve. He held me close, inhaling the fragrance in my hair. What is this scent? I've never smelled it before. Just now, I slept so well, drawn by this very fragrance. I lowered my head in embarrassment, desperately trying to avoid his unabashed gaze. It's merely the scent of common herbs. I handle them daily, it clings to my skin. His hands began to wander restlessly. This fragrance is lovely, far more pleasant than the cloying perfumes of cosmetics. He pressed himself against me once more. This time, he was gentler, far more patient. The lust stirred by the potion had long since faded from his body. This time, it was simply a man's affection for a woman. I didn't know how to respond to his affection, so I could only surrender to my true feelings and plead for mercy. Perhaps my heart had been clouded by desire. Clutching the taut, powerful tendons on his arm, gazing at his face with sword-like brows and starry eyes, I suddenly found him not so repulsive. After all, taking my body hadn't been his choice. And in this absurdity, I too had found pleasure. Thinking this, I shook his arm and cried out even more joyfully. His mood lifted further, tossing and turning me until I had no strength left. Afterward, he held me close, tucking the stray strands of hair at my temple behind my ear. I like you. What is your name? I'm He Maidong. The lingering tremors in my body hadn't yet faded. Leaning weakly against his chest, my voice sounded seductive even to my own ears. Maidong? Isn't that just a kind of wild grass? Such a rustic name. How about I give you a new one? He chuckled as he spoke, his fingers tracing my hair before teasing my earlobe. Ophiophagon nourishes the lungs and replenishes yin, benefits the stomach and promotes fluid production, clears the mind and dispels restlessness. It's an excellent medicinal herb. Not rustic at all. I swatted his hand away and turned my head away in a huff. A large hand cupped my face, forcing me to meet his gaze. Maidong, do you realize I am the emperor? No one has ever dared to strike my hand like that. Catching the mischievous glint in his eyes, I stubbornly changed my tone. Fine. If you insist on changing my name, so be it. You are the emperor after all. Even if you ordered my execution, I'd have to thank you. He laughed heartily, pulling me back into his embrace. Truly, only petty men and women are hard to please. I merely spoke offhand, yet it drew such a torrent of complaints from you. He pinched the soft flesh at my waist, eliciting a soft whimper from me. I couldn't bear to kill you. I want you by my side. Are you willing? Hearing his tender words, I sighed inwardly. When he carried me into the palace, he didn't ask my consent. Yet now, he bothers to inquire about my wishes. If I said no, would you truly let me go? Besides, even if you could, Consort Lee and my brother standing outside the gate wouldn't allow me to leave the palace. I traced circles on his chest with my finger. I'm already yours, yet you still ask? Are you planning to deny everything once you pull up your pants? He chuckled cheerfully, grabbing my wandering hand. You truly are a wildflower. No one has ever dared speak to the emperor like this before. I feigned displeasure and pulled my hand back. This is just how I am. If you don't like it, then I don't want to stay with you either. Hurry up and have someone release me from the palace. He pressed my hand tightly against his chest. When did I ever say I didn't like it? I like it very much. With that, he bellowed for someone to come in, paying no heed to the fact that both of us were disheveled and half undressed. Hearing the door open, I wrapped myself in the quilt and hid behind him, but he laughed, utterly unconcerned. Entering were indeed Consort Lee and my brother, though beside them stood a eunuch holding a whisk. Your Majesty, please forgive me. My sister, having entered the palace for the first time, was ignorant of the rules and offended your Majesty. I beg you not to hold her accountable. Whatever blame she bears, I will take it upon myself. The moment my brother entered, he didn't even lift his head. He simply knelt down with a thud and performed a deep bow. Consort Lee followed suit immediately. Your Majesty, the young lady of the He family grew up alongside me. She has always been innocent and kind-hearted. She would never intentionally trespass into your private chambers, nor would she deliberately seduce the sovereign. I implore your Majesty, for my sake, to spare her punishment. Her words and actions mirrored my previous life exactly. In that past life, when they entered, I had scratched the emperor's face and now glared at him like two fighting cocks. Now, I hung my head like a guilty quail, refusing to look at the two figures at the doorway. Next, as long as the emperor remained silent, Consort Lee would surely plead to take me back to the palace. Returning there would be tantamount to house arrest. I edged closer to the emperor and urged, tell them quickly that I didn't offend you or seduce you. He glanced back at me, his eyes crinkling with amusement. In this state, you still claim you didn't seduce the emperor? Following his gaze, I looked down to see a glimpse of snow-white skin exposed at my chest. I hastily pulled the quilt tighter, retreating further behind him. My hand instinctively pinched his lower back. With everyone here, don't you dare talk nonsense. Why so quiet? You were shouting quite loudly just now. He winced, then grabbed my hand and rubbed the back of it. Perhaps sensing the palpable, suggestive atmosphere in the chamber, brother and the empress both lifted their heads. Avoid improper sights. The eunuch standing beside them drew out the words in a drawn-out tone. He shot a withering glance at brother, who remained prostrate on the floor, then flicked his whisk and strode forward. Your Majesty, forgive this servant. I knew you never permitted concubines to attend you in the purple forbidden hall. It was my negligence. I deserve death 1,000 times over. I peered out from behind the emperor to observe this chief eunuch. Though he bowed his head humbly, pleading forgiveness, his face betrayed not a trace of the fear one would expect from a wrongdoer. All talk and no action. But he said the emperor never allowed concubines to sleep here. Does that mean I'm the first woman to lie on this bed? No wonder the emperor tried to choke me the moment he woke. He must be used to sleeping alone. It matters not. Henceforth, the imperial consort Chen shall be permitted to sleep here. At these words, the eunuch visibly froze before immediately kneeling. This servant greets Her Imperial Highness the Consort Chen. May Her Imperial Highness enjoy boundless health and happiness. I scratched the emperor's back and whispered, Who is Consort Chen? Before he could answer, my brother banged his head on the floor again. Your humble sister is young and ignorant, with a stubborn and unruly nature. She is unworthy of the emperor's profound affection. This humble subject is filled with dread. I beg your majesty to reconsider. He lifted his head to look at me. My dong, quickly ask his majesty to revoke this decree. I glared at him. Did he really think I didn't understand? The emperor intended to make me a consort. Seeing me gain the title of consort after merely spending one night with the emperor, he must feel it's not worth it for his beloved, who took 3 years to climb to the rank of concubine after entering the palace. Too bad. I refused to let him have his way. This consort title was earned by my own efforts. After all that effort, my body still ached. If the emperor gave it to me, I would take it. I would stand above his beloved. Silence fell over the chamber. I sensed the emperor was displeased. Before he could speak, the eunuch interjected, How dare you, Hirindong? How could you presume to address Her Imperial Highness Consort Chen by her name? My brother continued kowtowing, pleading for the emperor to reconsider with the demeanor of a loyal minister making a final appeal. Your Majesty, this humble servant understands your fondness for Sister Maidong. Yet to grant her such favor so soon after her entry into the palace may invite gossip within the court. Consort Li opened her crimson lips, her words soft and measured, sounding utterly reasonable. Moreover, she has been in the palace but a few days and is unfamiliar with court etiquette. Would it not be better for this humble servant to take her back to be thoroughly instructed, then proceed with the investiture? What say you? She was exceptionally beautiful, truly deserving of the character Li, beautiful, in her title. Now feigning illness, her complexion appeared 3 shades paler than before, rendering her even more exquisitely delicate. I dreaded the emperor heeding her words. For her reasoning held undeniable merit. My hands clenched the quilt in nervous tension, my mind racing with thoughts of escape should the emperor consent to Consort Li taking me away. In my previous life, after being brought back to her quarters, I never stepped outside her palace again. Nor did I ever see the emperor's face once more. Whenever the emperor visited, I was confined to a side chamber. Back then, we despised each other's presence, better never to meet. So each time he came, I remained quietly in my room. Terrified that if he saw me, he'd punish me for scratching his face. This time, if she dared lock me up again, I'd smash vases and plates, causing an absolute uproar. Lost in my thoughts, I failed to notice the emperor's face had grown as cold as ice. Hirindong, how dare you question my decision? Out of respect for your status as the brother of Consort Chen, I shall spare you this time. I perked up instantly, sitting up straight behind the emperor. I thought, don't spare him. Punish him for high treason, a few lashes would be perfect to vent my anger. Consort Li's face paled even more than before. Seeing the emperor rebuke her brother clearly pained her. Just as I was gloating inwardly, the emperor spoke again, Yet I still do not understand, in this palace, who I favor and bestow my affection upon should I need to heed others' opinions. At these words, brother bowed his head even lower, and Consort Li knelt down with a thud. Consort Li, I appreciate your concern for me, but as a mere consort, you have no standing to instruct the noble consorts. He squeezed my hand and continued, moreover, you've been ill these past days. If you pass on your illness to my dong, what then? Hearing this, I realized I wouldn't have to return to that cramped, gloomy side hall. My heart swelled with joy, and I squeezed the emperor's hand in return. He raised his hand, signaling the eunuch to rise. Lu Fuchuan, arrange for attendants to assist Consort Chen with her ablutions and changing. Additionally, instruct the Ministry of Rites to expedite preparations for the investiture ceremony. Eunuch Lu Fuchuan rose and asked the emperor which palace to assign me to. The only vacant main palace now is the Palace of Eternal Peace. However, it suffered some leaks recently and is currently under repair. If Her Imperial Highness the Consort Chen is to reside in the Palace of Eternal Peace, this servant believes it would be an opportune moment to undertake a thorough renovation. But before that, Her Imperial Highness would have to endure the inconvenience of staying elsewhere for a time. Upon hearing this, Consort Li raised her head again. This humble servant is willing to yield the main hall of Lanxin Hall to my sister, Consort Chen. I shall move to the side hall, so we sisters may keep each other company. Who says we're sisters? She's still scheming to drag me to Lanxin Hall. I tugged at the emperor's hand and muttered, Lanxin Hall is too far away. Yes, Lanxin Hall is too far. Then let's find somewhere closer. The emperor ignored Consort Li. After patting my hand, he turned directly to Eunuch Lu Fuchuan. Did you hear that? Eunuch Lu bowed deeply to me. The side hall of Zichen Hall is currently vacant. It can be tidied up and made ready for occupancy. The side hall of the Purple Palace? That was practically right beside the emperor's bedchamber. A chill suddenly ran down my neck. The emperor smiled at me and nodded with satisfaction. Eunuch Lu Fuchuan has indeed thought of everything. But I wonder what my beloved consort thinks. That title, beloved consort, left me dizzy. I'd only slept for a night, how had I become his beloved consort? But then I thought, with the emperor backing me, neither brother nor consort Li could touch me. With that thought, I hooked my arm through his, acting perfectly obedient. I'll do whatever you say. Zichen Palace was the emperor's residence. Neither the main hall nor the side chambers held a single item belonging to a woman. Lu Fuchuan led a group of palace maids and eunuchs in and out. The emperor dressed and left. I had just finished my ablutions when Consort Li and brother arrived outside the hall seeking an audience. Lu Fuchuan accompanied me to meet them. The moment he entered, brother strode swiftly before me. My dong, what's going on? Why has the emperor suddenly shown you such favor? Eunuch Lu stepped in front of me. How dare you, he rending. How dare you not kneel before Consort Chen? My brother and Consort Li reluctantly performed the ritual bow. Eunuch Lu, might you grant us a moment alone? My brother asked, lifting his head. I glanced at Eunuch Lu with a questioning look and nodded. Perfect. I had something to ask them too. Brother, don't you know why the emperor suddenly favors me? I sat on the couch, watching my brother kneeling on the floor. My dong, minister, he is still your brother. Let him rise first. He's been kneeling in the main hall for quite some time already, Consort Li said, standing beside my brother. It seemed neither of them had yet adjusted to the difference in our statuses now. I shot her a withering look. Consort Li, are you instructing me? Or are you concerned for my brother? Her face visibly flushed crimson. My dong, the Empress Dowager still resides in the palace. For the emperor to appoint you as a consort, you must first gain her approval. This title of Consort Chen is far from assured. Regardless, minister, he is still your brother. How can you abandon family ties so coldly the moment you climb the imperial bed? I laughed. What is it? Consort Li, are you unaware that the emperor's word is law? Or do you simply believe I am unworthy of his favor, unworthy of this title? Whether the formal investiture proceeds smoothly or not, right now I am the Consort Chen, personally appointed by the emperor's golden words. I'll keep you in check for now. As for family ties, when you and my brother conspired against me, did you ever urge him to consider our bond? While soaking in the bath, I'd already sorted everything out. Our family has practiced medicine for generations. An ancestral skill allowed us to determine a woman's optimal conception period through pulse diagnosis. Since childhood, I followed my parents' teachings, practicing the 5 animals exercise and the 8 brocades to strengthen my body, while also supplementing daily with medicinal cuisine, keeping me robust and healthy. My appearance itself is not particularly striking. I'm not especially attractive to men. Nor do I yearn for the power and splendor within the palace walls. I was simply the most suitable candidate for bearing children that my brother and consort Lee could conceive of. These past days, while my brother attended to consort Lee's medicinal soups, he also took my pulse daily. I treated it as a childhood game, never suspecting he was observing when I would be most receptive to conception. The Imperial Medical Bureau prepared the Emperor's medicinal meals daily, and naturally, he found an opportunity to tamper with them. The Emperor drank a little wine and favored a woman who happened to pass by. Such matters were hardly news in the harem. What they hadn't anticipated was that the Emperor, instead of favoring a beauty as graceful and charming as consort Lee, had chosen to favor me. Truthfully, I hadn't expected it either. I suppose it's because my constitution is strong enough to endure his demands. But none of that matters. Whatever the reason, he favors me now. I must seize this moment while he favors me to make things difficult for my brother and consort Lee. Sure enough, the moment these words left my lips, both consort Lee and my brother's faces drained of color. My dong, do not slander me with empty words. I left the Imperial Medical Bureau with you. I merely walked a few steps ahead, and when I turned back, you were nowhere to be seen. As for the Emperor favoring you, that is his own lack of self-control. How can you blame me? My brother straightened his back and met my gaze. Truthfully, your imperial favor is a blessing for our Yu family. Yet emperors have always been ruthless, and the harem teems with hidden currents. Your sudden elevation to consort will surely stir envy among the others. As your brother, and with consort Lee having been your childhood friend, we ought to watch over each other in this palace. He knelt before me. Sister, I forgot you were unfamiliar with the palace paths and walked a bit faster. I truly meant no harm. Besides, mightn't this turn out to be a blessing in disguise? I looked at him, recalling those cold words. My dong had a difficult labor, but we did our utmost to preserve the imperial heir. With my robust health and mastery of medicine, had they not confined me to my chambers and forced me to consume tonics daily, how could I have conceived a plump baby only to struggle in childbirth? And even if it had been difficult, I still gave birth. It was consort Lee who couldn't conceive, so she and my brother concocted this despicable scheme to frame me. I shifted my expression and smiled at my brother. Yes, brother is right. My dong has no standing in the palace. In the future, I'll need brother and consort Lee's guidance. Shortly after brother and consort Lee departed, eunuch Lu arrived with a message. He said the side chamber hadn't been prepared yet today, and the emperor had specially permitted me to stay in the main chamber tonight. Looking at the side chamber fully stocked with every amenity, I asked eunuch Lu what exactly wasn't ready. Your Highness, look at that bed, isn't there one quilt missing? I gazed at the 4 or 5 quilts already on the bed and let out a bitter laugh. My emperor, even if I were in perfect health, I couldn't endure such relentless day and night exhaustion. After finishing my ablutions, eunuch Lu led me to the main hall. The emperor sat by the bed in his nightclothes. Seeing me enter, he hastily hid whatever he was holding beneath the mattress. You're here. Come closer. How do you feel? Any discomfort? I shook my head, then after a moment, nodded. He burst out laughing. Why the mixed signals? Shaking your head one moment, nodding the next? Are you feeling well or not? Not wanting to deceive the emperor, I decided to be honest. Someone massaged my arms and legs, and the imperial physician examined me. I feel fine, just a bit tired. He pulled me to sit on the bed. If you're tired, let's sleep well. I promise not to disturb you tonight. I looked at him, half believing, half doubting. Your body truly needs proper recuperation. Fainting during our first time. It was my fault for being too hasty. Hearing this, my face flushed crimson. He actually reflected on his own impatience. That night, the emperor truly behaved himself, merely holding me without any further advances. When I awoke, I found myself nestled in his embrace. Gazing at his broad, muscular chest mere inches away, I pushed him away with my hands. Yet he remained utterly still. I only promised not to disturb you tonight. This is the next day. I felt like crying, utterly helpless against his teasing, quickly succumbing to his advances. Exhausted, I fell asleep. When I awoke again, daylight streamed in, and the emperor was already gone. I felt beneath the mattress, nothing was there. What on earth had the emperor hidden that he treasured so dearly? After I rose, Lu Fuquan followed me everywhere. Annoyed, I asked him, as the chief steward of the imperial court, why he wasn't attending the emperor but trailing after me instead. He replied it was the emperor's command, and he had no choice but to obey. After breakfast, 2 groups of imperial physicians arrived to meticulously take my pulse. Ladies from the Imperial Wardrobe Bureau came to measure me for garments. The head steward of the imperial kitchen personally inquired about my favorite dishes. Eunuchs from the imperial gardens brought young attendants carrying exotic flowers and rare plants for me to choose from. Lu Fuquan explained that all this was by the emperor's command. Something was off. Very, very off. How could this emperor be so different from the one in my past life? I asked Lu Fuquan, do I resemble anyone? Perhaps one of the emperor's former acquaintances? He replied, no, your highness. You don't even resemble physician he. I pressed him further, does his majesty harbor some secret inclination? Tell me, and I swear I won't breathe a word. He cut me off immediately, the emperor is a man of noble integrity, your majesty. You mustn't speak such nonsense. I pressed him further, then does his majesty secretly love someone else, someone he can't be with right now? That's why he uses me as a substitute. Finally, he sighed helplessly, your majesty, please don't put me in such a difficult position. Can't you see that the emperor loves you? I shook my head, I haven't noticed. He sighed again, then told me many things about the emperor. The emperor is the eldest son of the empress, designated heir from childhood. The late emperor and empress dowager demanded the utmost rigor from him. From a young age, he became a dignified and upright gentleman. Whether in the front court or the inner palace, he never overstepped his bounds. The emperor's heart is filled with sorrow. Born within these palace walls, even when hunting outside, he was taught never to gallop, never to ride alone. From the cradle, he was alone. All these years, he never grew accustomed to having anyone beside him when he slept. Your Highness, forgive this servant's impertinence, but when His Majesty favors someone, it doesn't necessarily mean he loves them. Yet, when he asks you to sleep beside him, that is true affection. In Lu Fuquan's eyes, I was a stubborn block of wood. Yet I truly couldn't fathom why the same person could display such stark differences. As I sat at the table drinking ginseng and astragalus chicken soup, I suddenly recalled yesterday. While the maid was dressing me, the emperor had asked Lu Fuquan, does my face look any different? Lu Fuquan replied, no. The emperor pressed, look again carefully. Lu Fuquan paused briefly before answering, your majesty is radiant with joy today, looking ever more refined and otherworldly. It seemed he cared deeply about his appearance. So scratching his face in my previous life had truly angered him. Henceforth, I should lavish praise on his beauty, comparable to Pannon, his face like Songyu, striving to secure my position under this mighty tree. Rumors spread throughout the palace that I possessed the art of seduction. With merely average looks, I climbed onto the imperial bed and gained his favor. Even the usually stern Empress Dowager turned a blind eye to the emperor's such extraordinary behavior. One day, Consort Li came to see me, her face beaming with joy. These people in the palace are so skilled at spreading rumors. They actually say you practice witchcraft. How ridiculous! Seeing her cover her mouth with a handkerchief as she laughed, I knew her next words would not be kind. Word has come from the Empress Dowager's quarters. They say the emperor favors you because of some strange dream he had. In it, a little boy called him Father Emperor and said he would find a stranger to bring him here. Isn't it a coincidence that you, this stranger, appeared at that very moment? She casually snapped off a flower branch and sniffed it. Truthfully, any of us in this palace can truly hope for the emperor's genuine affection? We're all merely tools for the imperial family to perpetuate their lineage. You're no different, little sister. With that, she tossed the flower to the ground and stomped on it twice. Truth be told, trapped within these palace walls, who among us is truly noble? Take consort young from the previous dynasty, she rose 3 ranks in a single month, climbing from a lowly noble lady to consort. She was the talk of the court, yet ended up banished to the cold palace. I understood her meaning. The emperor favors me only because I can bear children, not because he truly loves me. Yet when she and brother schemed against me, wasn't it for the same reason? Sister Li Pin speaks wisely. True sincerity is the rarest treasure in this world. But once we entered these palace walls, where could we possibly find it? I stroked the buds about to bloom on the flower branch. I fear I may never taste the sweetness of true affection in this lifetime. Precious treasures are easily obtained, but a loving husband is hard to find. Sister, I truly envy you. Hearing my words, her hand paused mid-reach to pluck the branch. Sister, do not let worldly things wound those who hold your heart. She and her brother had been childhood sweethearts, once deeply in love. He entered the Imperial Medical Academy solely to stay by her side. To vie for favor, she emulated Zhao Fian of the previous dynasty, starving herself until her health failed. She took the wrong pills, damaging her body. Seeing her strive so earnestly for favor, he showed no jealousy but helped her wholeheartedly. He even sacrificed me, his own sister, for her sake. Wasn't that true devotion too? What does it matter if I cannot win his heart? Winning favor is just as good. She touched her own face. With such beauty, why shouldn't I be able to secure his favor? As for your brother, he's deluded himself into fantasizing about becoming a court lady. Ah, I truly pity my foolish brother. That night, after I had fallen asleep, the emperor slipped into my chambers. These past days, if he had many memorials to review, he would summon me to the main hall, allowing me to either sit and read or retire early. If the memorials were few, he would seek me out in my chambers after finishing his work. Tonight he didn't summon me, and I didn't want him to come either. So I extinguished the lamp early, pretending to have retired long ago. When he entered, he only allowed eunuch Lu to stand far away at the door, holding a lamp. The chamber was dim. I watched him slowly approach and sat up abruptly. My beloved consort, you haven't slept? Resting so early tonight, are you feeling unwell? He wasn't startled at all. Beloved consort, do you call everyone that, or do you find my name too rustic? I didn't know where this anger came from, but I simply felt displeased. Eunuch Lu at the door overheard and slammed the door shut, fleeing with the lantern. What's wrong? Who upset you? The emperor didn't seem annoyed. He grabbed my hand and rubbed it in his palm. Never mind. Let's sleep. Since he wasn't angry, I felt awkward continuing my tantrum. I crawled back under the covers, and he followed, pulling the quilt over us. I've never called anyone else my beloved consort. I just thought it sounded intimate when I called you that. If you don't like it, I won't use it anymore. My dong. Though I once thought your name was old-fashioned, after calling it so many times in my heart, it just feels familiar. Come to think of it, my own childhood nickname is pretty old-fashioned too. I turned to face him and asked what his childhood name was. He hesitated at first, but when I tickled his soft spot, he finally told me, Zongbao. I was frail at birth. My parents feared I might not survive, so they named me this, hoping our ancestors would protect me. Hearing him refer to himself as I decided to forgive him. Then when we're alone, you may call me my dong, and I'll call you Zongbao. How does that sound? Fine. Whatever pleases you is fine. He pulled me into his embrace, resting his chin atop my head. I listened to the gentle humming sound from his chest. My dong, how has your health been these past few days? Any discomfort? I shook my head. That's good. My dong, I made a bold promise to Mother Empress that I'd soon make her an imperial grandmother. But I'm truly afraid something might happen to you. Oh, so that's why Consort Li came to me earlier today with those words. It all makes sense now. My dong, these past days I've ordered searches across the land for the finest physicians and midwives. Don't fear, I'll do everything in my power to protect you. I looked up at him. You want me to bear your child? Yes. That way, the court officials and Mother Empress will have no grounds for complaint. And then, for the sake of the child, you will be willing to stay by my side. This sounded a bit strange. But how can you be certain I will conceive? Many consorts and concubines in this palace have no children. Sometimes, when a couple has no children, it isn't necessarily the woman's fault. The implication being, perhaps it's you, the emperor, who is lacking. He caught the subtext in my words, rolled over, and pinned me beneath him. Without cultivation, there can be no harvest. But I've been so diligent these past days, heaven surely won't leave me empty-handed. I was wrong to resort to such provocative tactics. After the consort investiture ceremony, I went to pay my respects to the Empress Dowager. Before leaving, the Emperor assured me he'd spoken well of me to her, so I needn't be nervous. The Empress Dowager didn't make things difficult for me. When I kowtowed before her, her attendants even thoughtfully placed a soft cushion beneath me. She had me stand before her and examined me closely. Then she remarked, "Indeed, you are plain." Had I known His Majesty disliked beauty, I wouldn't have bothered having others seek out lovely women for him. But being plain is good, it means His Majesty won't be distracted by women and neglect his duties. Since His Majesty favors you and desires your company, you must serve him well. But this Empress Dowager hopes His Majesty keeps his word and grants me a royal grandson soon. Should I discover he uses you merely as a shield, I shall spare neither him nor you. The Empress Dowager was the Empress Dowager, her words never spared anyone's feelings. Recalling the Emperor's words to me, I carefully began, "Your Majesty, my family has practiced medicine for generations. Since childhood, I've trained in the 8 brocades and 5 animals' play. My parents also often had me take medicinal tonics alongside nourishing meals. Thus, my constitution is robust. As long as the Emperor is also in good health, the child will come naturally." Hearing my words, the matron attending the Empress Dowager turned to Lu Fuchuan, who followed behind me. "Has no one taught consort Chen proper etiquette? How can she not even use respectful speech?" Eunuch Lu immediately knelt to apologize. His Majesty said he cherishes consort Chen's natural grace and refuses to force any change. The Empress Dowager waved her hand dismissively. "Enough, enough. If His Majesty is pleased, let him be. I am old and no longer concerned with the affairs of the young." After leaving the Empress Dowager's palace, my words spread throughout the harem. Many consorts laughed at my lack of etiquette, while others came to congratulate me and ask about health preservation. I set up my medical table in the hall and took the pulse of each sister who sat down. Over recent days, the maids and eunuchs in my palace had already been examined by me several times. They had no major ailments, but the pampered consorts, accustomed to a life of ease, had numerous issues. "Sister, you must eat and drink properly. Man is iron, food is steel. Eating too little may make you thin, but your body can't endure it. Sister, your beauty is already captivating. There's no need to pursue excessive whiteness. While some perfumed powders can lighten the skin, they contain lead powder, which isn't good for a woman. Sister, you really ought to move about more often. Delicate fragility may be endearing, but we were born with legs meant for walking. Don't fear thicker thighs, no one will notice beneath your skirts." My palace remained bustling daily, yet consortly seldom visited. Word came she had fallen ill again. Brother tended to her bedside. A month later, I detected the pulse of pregnancy. The Emperor, however, did not seem particularly pleased. The Yongnan Palace had long been refurbished, yet he never once mentioned moving me there. As my belly grew larger, he spent more and more time by my side. One day, my brother came to pay his respects and brought a bottle of pills. He claimed to have concocted them himself, saying they were beneficial for pregnancy, alleviating morning sickness and fatigue. I opened the bottle and took a slight sniff, immediately sensing something was amiss with the medicine. "Brother, you must know that plotting against the imperial heir is a grave crime. Not only would the perpetrator lose their life, but their entire family would be implicated. You wouldn't think that just because you're my brother, I wouldn't act on principle and eliminate my own kin, would you?" Since becoming pregnant, my sense of smell had grown far more acute. Once, after practicing swordsmanship, the Emperor rushed to see me without bathing first, and I vomited on the spot. Now he dares not even use incense. And yet, my brother sent this bottle of pills reeking of cinnabar. I kept him and consortly alive so they could witness my rise to power, how I would gain prestige through my child, not to give them further opportunities to harm me. Since they refuse to repent, they shall die. The Astronomical Bureau prayed for my unborn child and determined consort Li's fate clashed with the young prince's. The emperor ordered her confined to the Orchid Fragrance Hall, forbidden to leave unless he personally permitted it. My brother came to plead for consort Li. Though I was once close to consort Li, she hinders the prince. This is what the Astronomical Bureau calculated. What choice did I have? You know how desperately the Empress Dowager and the Emperor long for this child. He banged his head on the ground several times. You know my entire life has been lived for Lady Li. Now that you've become the esteemed consort Chen and bear the dragon's heir, why torment even a lowly, unloved palace lady like her? Don't you seek blessings for yourself? Don't you seek blessings for the child growing within you? How laughable. She, a noble consort, has schemed against me, a commoner. Now that times have changed, she has the audacity to demand magnanimity from me. I stared at my brother kneeling before me. Are you cursing my child? Don't you fear losing your life and never seeing your beloved again? His face paled, yet he persisted with his twisted logic. Does your highness truly intend to commit matricide during your pregnancy? I smiled faintly. Now is not the time for your death. Of course not. From childhood, mother taught us that as siblings of the same mother, we should cherish and support one another. Only you've long forgotten that. And I needn't remember it either. But for the sake of your childhood friendship with her, I'll petition His Majesty for mercy, to permit you to tend to her illness in the Orchid Fragrance Hall. Eunuch Lu had already made arrangements. Word would naturally be relayed from the Orchid Fragrance Hall. Consort Li had never enjoyed much favor in the palace, and now confined within its walls, her treatment was far worse than before. Only when my heart grew cold did I realize how precious my brother's sincerity truly was. Through the long, dark nights, he stayed by my side of his own accord. Upon learning of their past, the emperor held my hand and comforted me. I was unaware consort Li and your brother were old acquaintances. She was summoned to the palace by my late mother years ago. Since their bond runs deep, once you deliver safely, I shall have a false identity fabricated for consort Li and send them both out of the palace. Supporting my lower back, I nodded. As my pregnancy advanced, the nighttime heat made me reluctant to share the emperor's bed. I stayed in a side hall, and each night he waited until I slept before returning to the main hall himself. One day, while he was discussing state affairs in the front hall, I found the sun too harsh outside and went to stroll through his chambers. Beneath his pillow, a corner of fabric peeked out. It resembled the item he'd hastily hidden under the bedding that day. I walked over, pulled it out, and blushed instantly. It was the nightgown I'd worn the first time we made love in this very chamber. Embroidered on it was a plantain flower, stitched by my own hand. In my previous life, consumed by the outrage of my innocence being violated, I hadn't even noticed I'd lost a garment. This time, when Eunuch Lu sent new clothes, I paid no mind to where the old ones had gone. I never imagined the emperor harbored such a peculiar inclination, a fondness for secretly keeping women's garments. That night, I had already retired to bed when I heard the emperor's angry shouts from the main hall. He was usually kind to his servants, so I wondered why he was so furious today. When I made my way to his chamber, supporting my belly, the floor was strewn with kneeling figures. Seeing me approach, he hurried over to help me up. Did my voice wake you? The baby kicked me awake. What's happened? I glanced at the kneeling figures, all familiar servants of the hall, including Lu Fuchuan. Nothing serious. Let me escort you back to rest. I refused to leave. Lu Fuchuan spoke up honestly. Your Majesty, a precious item from his bedchamber is missing. Consort, you were the only one who entered today. You must help us find it. That must be my little nightgown. I saw it and took it back. Your Majesty, won't you explain to me why you hid my clothes? I asked him after he brought me back and was massaging my legs. This was the first time I'd spoken to him like this, making his already flustered face even more awkward. My dong, I didn't mean to. It turned out he'd always suffered from poor sleep, and the herbal scent on my body had a calming effect on him. My nightgown had fallen onto his bed, so he'd kept it. Recently, after I sent him back to the main hall, he began tossing and turning again at night, so he took out the nightgown. Today, when he couldn't find it, he flew into a rage. If you need something to calm your mind and aid your sleep, I'll sew you a sachet with herbs. I always saw him sleeping soundly beside me, never imagining he'd have such trouble. I'm a physician myself. If you have any ailments or discomfort, just tell me. Why resort to hiding my nightgown? He nodded hastily. Yes, the physician is right. It's just that I've been suffering from longing lately. Is there any remedy for that? I kicked him. There's no remedy. Just go back to sleep obediently. Eunuch Lu followed me daily, lately often reminding me, Your Highness, you've been taking the Emperor's favor for granted lately. He may relish it, but if word reaches the Empress Dowager, it won't sound good. Your servant speaks truth to power, all for your own good. I reflected on my actions and his words. He had a point. As my body grew heavier and I could no longer do many tasks myself, I directed the palace maids and eunuchs to gather and dry herbs. I had the Imperial Wardrobe Bureau sew 2 calming sachets. One was for the Emperor, the other for the Empress Dowager. Both found them effective. I wrote down the formula and handed it to my parents when they came to visit the palace. Father, mother, sell these for profit. Your daughter crafted them personally. Both the Emperor and Empress Dowager praised them. They asked what name to give the sachets. I pondered. Call them natural. Natural sleep aid sachets. Before they left, I added, you must share half the profits with me. Your daughter needs personal funds while in the palace. The Emperor laughed at my greed. I couldn't be bothered to care. My brother now keeps consortly company, inevitably draining our family funds to support her. The 2 of them will die sooner or later. When he's spent every last coin, what will become of our parents? If my brother dies in the palace, they'll surely refuse any imperial gifts. I won't want that money either. Let it remain for their old age. The day of delivery drew ever nearer. The Emperor grew increasingly anxious. On the day of birth, both he and the Empress Dowager waited outside the hall. I thought that with my daily walks and measured nourishment, the labor might be easier this time. Yet the pain still lasted half a day. After the child was born, the midwife first held him before me. A tiny, wrinkled bundle, yet his features already bore his father's spirit. May he grow to be as valiant and handsome as his father. Once I was dressed, the Emperor was the first to rush in. He took my hand, his eyes slightly reddened. My dong, are you all right? Is there any discomfort? I shook my head. My dong, now that we have our child, the 3 of us shall live well together. You mustn't think of leaving the palace again. When did I ever say I wanted to leave the palace? For bearing the imperial prince, the Emperor elevated my rank to imperial noble consort and granted a general amnesty. The gates of Lanshin Hall were opened once more. Yet consortly remained confined within her chambers. She now carried my brother's child within her. Back then, my brother claimed she'd ruined her fertility with pills meant to win favor, a lie he'd told her. He simply couldn't bear seeing his beloved share a bed with another man. That's why he devised the scheme to deceive me into entering the palace, conceiving, and bearing his child. On the day of the young prince's full moon celebration, the Emperor hosted a banquet within the palace, requiring all consorts to attend. After the feast, Consort Li sought me out alone. Her abdomen was tightly bound, yet the bulge remained evident. My dong, save me. Give me an abortion potion. This child cannot remain. She knelt on the floor, her expression sorrowful. My brother rushed over and helped her up. My dong, why must you always torment Consort Li? I was speechless. How could he say I was tormenting her? It was you who left her pregnant and too ashamed to show her face. Besides, I never gave you any love potions or aphrodisiac wine. Brother, Consort Li came to me for the abortion medicine. I didn't seek her out. You want to abort our child? He looked at Consort Li, his voice slow and measured. Consort Li flung his hand away. This is the palace. Have you lost your mind, or are you trying to get me killed? I warned her just in time. Sister, weren't you infertile before? How did you conceive this time? Hearing this, Lin Ying turned to her brother, her eyes filled with questioning. Ever since her brother entered the palace, he alone had taken her pulse and treated her illnesses. She trusted him, unaware of his hidden motives. Yes, how could I forget? Minister He, you once solemnly declared my body was ruined, incapable of bearing children. That's precisely why I agreed to help you deceive my dong into the palace. So all this was merely to elevate your sister to power. She pointed at me, her eyes bulging with fury. How dare she? How dare this plain-looking girl win the emperor's favor and become imperial noble consort? And me? I was born with such beauty, destined to be showered with favor, yet I ruined my own future by believing your lies. Minister He, how heartless you are. It seemed Consort Li still hadn't grasped my true intentions. Convinced I had sacrificed her favor to bring me into the palace, she beat and cursed me. My brother said nothing, enduring her abuse in silence. Later, Consort Li went mad, snatching a hairpin from her hair and pressing it to her throat. He Rindong, give me an abortion potion. If this scandal breaks, I'll accuse you of seducing me. Then neither you nor your imperial consort sister will escape punishment. My brother's hairpin fell loose, his face covered in fingerprints and slap marks. Lin Yang, after all these years, do you truly not know how I feel about you? When you entered the palace for the selection without telling me, you said our family needed you to secure a future for your younger brother. After you entered the palace, I couldn't bear to leave you behind, so I followed and became a court physician. Lin Yang, I'm a man. How do you think I felt watching you practice dancing day and night to please another man? Watching you lose your appetite and sleep over another man? For you, I even tricked my dong into the palace. Who could have guessed the emperor would take a liking to her? He tried to snatch the hairpin from Consort Li's hand. Lin Yang, do not worry. I can report to the emperor that you are ill and unfit to leave the palace. We shall quietly bear our child, then have my dong help smuggle our family of 3 out. As her brother drew closer, Consort Li grew more frenzied. Even now you refuse to let me go? You still want me to leave the palace with you? He Rindong, you're just a lowly court physician. I am Consort Li. What fine clothes and sumptuous food could you possibly provide? What ornate palaces could you offer? Do you rely on your sister, now the imperial noble consort? You 2 siblings are quite the schemers. She plunged the hairpin into her brother's chest. Since you so desperately want to be with me, let us walk together to our ruin. After breaking free from her brother, she made her way straight to the Empress Dowager's palace. Her brother, clutching his chest, was stopped at the door. Later, both she and her brother were imprisoned. I too was summoned to the palace by the Empress Dowager. She asked me, when you broke into the emperor's chambers, was it a plot you hatched with your brother? What kind of mind-altering potion did you give the emperor? I was utterly speechless, unable to defend myself. Upon receiving word, the emperor rushed to the Empress Dowager's palace and shielded me behind him. Mother, this is not my dong's fault. I have already uncovered the truth. It was all a conspiracy orchestrated by physician He and Consort Li. He led me away from the Empress Dowager's palace. Mother is aware of your brother and Consort Li's affair. I cannot protect them. So he had known all along that my encounter with him was orchestrated by my brother and Consort Li. Out of respect for physician He being your brother, I had no intention of holding this against him. After all, he did bring you to me. But he and Consort Li acted far too recklessly. 2 cups of poisoned wine were presented to my brother and Consort Li. My brother hastily drank both cups, begging for Consort Li's life to be spared. After his death, the Empress Dowager bestowed a white silk cord. The emperor issued a new decree. All consorts who had not received imperial favor could leave the palace if they wished, receiving gold in their departure. Those unwilling to leave could remain to grow old within the palace walls. Some sisters rejoiced at leaving the palace, never wanting to be confined within its walls again. Others felt all men were the same. Rather than serving another man outside, they preferred the palace's care, where they lacked for nothing. A year later, despite my utmost precautions, I found myself pregnant once more. The emperor stroked my back, laughing heartily, and I kicked him in anger. He embraced me and told me of a dream he'd had. In it, he shared a night with a stranger, but upon waking, the woman had clawed at her own face. In a fit of rage, he sent her away, keeping only a small garment of hers. Later, she refused to see him, sending word that she would never forgive his actions. Yet she bore his child. Still, she would not meet him. Each time he visited, she hid in her room reading, refusing even a glance. He entrusted her brother and friends to care for her, intending to seek her out after the child's birth. Yet she died in childbirth. Consumed by grief, he extended his love to her child, naming the newborn crown prince. For the rest of his long life, he clutched that single garment, watching the stubborn crown prince, who mirrored her temper, to remember her. My Dong, do you know? This dream is the one I had after our first time together. The entire dream felt as real as living an entire lifetime. When I awoke and saw you, I only wanted to hold you tight. Even if you scratched my face, even if you resented me, I would never let you go. I cupped his face, seeing my own reflection in his eyes. No wonder he was so different in this life compared to the last. It was all my dear brother and consortly meddling. They deceived both of us, making us each believe the other resented us. It was also our own stubbornness, neither of us willing to yield first. Only after both had lost what we cherished most did we regret not having softened our stance back then. Zongbao, rest assured. This time, I'll stay by your side forever. Then, when you sleep alone from now on, could you please stop clutching my undershirt as you drift off? The story ends here. Thank you all for your companionship. See you in the next chapter.